Hey guys, I know I'm late to this party, but I hope you stick around nevertheless. Today we're going to be talking about Nikon full-frame mirrorless. And I paraphrase, no professional photographers use Olympus, Sony, or Fuji. Nikon must go full-frame mirrorless, because full-frame is the trend. Boy oh boy could Tetsuro Goto have gotten it any more wrong. I think not! I haven't really seen the photographic community come together in such an intensely crazy way like it has over this issue. I think it's really been a great thing that a lot of people have been able to shed some otherwise definitive boundaries in order to come together over how frustrating this particular statement was. But as a result, there's a lot of numbers flying around, some deserved and some not. What I know is that whatever plans Nikon has for mirrorless, they must also include APS-C. The Japanese business magazine Sentaku reported, I don't know if this is still the case, that the Japanese government was trying to convince Fuji to, buy a share of or a stake in Nikon because of Nikon's financial troubles. Nikon also went through a huge restructure earlier this year, not perhaps on a Walmart scale, because Walmart goes through employees like a hot knife through butter sometimes it feels like, but they definitely, for them, huge restructure. So this statement out of Tetsuro Goto is a huge slap in the face to Fuji, who may or may not be still in talks about acquiring a stake in Nikon. As a result, a lot of people have been saying that this guy is incredibly arrogant. But here's a great time to digress. Nikon's fallen to number 3 in terms of full frame sales, according to SEPA numbers, and from what I've seen, anecdotally, it would also seem to make sense that Nikon's going to be falling in APS-C sales, if they haven't already. This is significant for several reasons, but I want to kind of address the elephant in the room that I don't feel like enough people are talking about, and that is lens options. A lot of current DSLR shooters, be it Canon or Nikon, but we've seen it a lot with Nikon in particular recently, have been very much up in arms. Whatever mirrorless option that Nikon comes out with, it's got to be F-mount. It's got to be compatible with our current lenses. And I don't think that's gonna happen. While on the one hand, I agree, the other I don't. What we're seeing a lot right now is the development, past tense, of a trend of on the part of first-party manufacturers to functionally cripple their APS-C systems through lens selection. For example, Fuji is the only manufacturer making pro-level APS-C lenses, and in particular pro-level APS-C zoom lenses. Arguably, the Zeiss 2.8s of the world, the 16-70 f4 out of Zeiss, or the Canon 17-55 f2.8 are exceptions to the trend. However, I think by their relative paucity prove the rule. With the Zeiss lenses, I've heard a number of things saying that they have quality assurance issues. Perhaps that's not as much the case as I've heard, perhaps I've only heard the vocal minority, but also the cost of both those and the 17-55 f2.8 out of Canon, they're not quite there yet. And most importantly, it's not an 11 or 12 to 200 equivalent at 2.8. What we're seeing out of Canon in particular is a complete lack of professional lens options for the EFM mount, because what they're wanting you to do is buy and adapt EF lenses to use on their mirrorless bodies. Sony is wanting you to use their full frame lenses, just like Canon is, on their APS-C options. They fit, but it's not really right. Doesn't matter, you say Nikon's going full frame mirrorless, full frame. However, what we're seeing across the board is that users are funneled into existing lens lineups at the cost of potentially alienating users who don't want the size, weight, whatever, the expense, but they still want pro-level native mount lenses that fit the design language of their preferred system. Fuji's done a great job with their 16 to 55 and 50 to 140. The size is not all that it could be, but the 18 to 55, the f2.8 to 4 that they have is actually really high quality. Fuji makes excellent optics for their cameras, and the 2.8s aren't as big for APS-C as they are for full frame. There's a lot of arguments going around like, oh, you know, full frame mirrorless, you're not actually saving on size and weight, but for APS-C, you actually are at f2.8. What I'm trying to say is that native mount pro level lens offerings are crucial to the ongoing development, adoption, and flourishing of any lens mount. And in my view, this is more important for Nikon's future full-frame mirrorless interchangeable lens camera offerings. Users don't want to buy into a system that they're unsure of by being forced to buy lenses that they know they don't want in order to try out a fresh new offering that looks really cool. For example, I bought the ELPH 6300, I got the kit lens, I got the Sigma 30 f1.4. I know the rest of Sony's APS-C E-mount is not that great for what I want, and I'm not really intending on buying much, if any, more APS-C E-mount lenses, but I wanted to try out Sony. I am so interested in the D850, but I would never buy Nikon full-frame lenses, and that's not because of any quality issues. Nikon full-frame lenses are fantastic. I just know that I want to go mirrorless, be it full-frame, medium format, or APS-C, but I want to go mirrorless. I don't want to do DSLR very much anymore, and that's just my preference. I'm not saying you should do likewise. I'm not trying to put a value statement on it objectively. I'm just trying to state my preference with that. So if Nikon were able to come out with a mirrorless interchangeable lens camera with a couple of pro-level lens options, remember the whole argument is that, you know, manufacturers are pushing users towards existing lens lineups. If they'd be able to make fresh pro lenses for their new mirrorless interchangeable lens camera offering, that would allow users like myself, and it seems like there's a lot of us, from what I'm seeing across comment boards for several different sites, including my own videos, that would be interested in potentially picking something like this up and maybe one or two lenses, but not having to buy into a system. That is the strength of high quality native mount pro level lens options. Volume. Otherwise, you're just appealing to users that already own other of your products, and it's convenient for them, perhaps, but what it's not doing is reaching outside of that demo in order to yield good sales numbers in bringing new people into the fold. And that's an interesting contrast between, you know, good business sense and user loyalty. The numbers of stories of people switching to Nikon from Canon or mirrorless seem to be dwindling. Anecdotally, it seems that Nikon is represented less and less among professional sports photographers and photojournalists. The thing is that Nikon needs new users. They need a new system to bring people on board with, because they haven't with traditional DSLR offerings, and they probably won't. The D850, for as fantastic of a camera as it is, isn't really getting people to switch to Nikon. It's there for existing users. It's not to bring users in. Thank you very much for your time and for your attention. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next one.